Hey everyone, thanks for stopping by the channel today to check out this beautiful Frankenstrat here. If you've been around the channel for any length of time, you're probably familiar with an older video that I did called Todd's EVH Frankenstrat, a group project. But what you may not know is I actually built this guitar at the exact same time, in tandem, but just off camera. And there's a cameo appearance of it in the basement when I'm doing the wiring there with Todd's guitar. So there's a little Easter egg for you. Then it was in a video called A Frankenstrat Overview, K&E Body and Mighty Mite Neck, where I covered all the specs in its original form with the traditional Frankenstrat paint job. And most recently it was in the infamous Frankenstrat makeover video, which I mean, to be completely honest with you, it was one of my lowest rated videos ever. And I completely understand why. You know, the Frankenstrat is a very polarizing guitar. You know, just talking about it, you know, it evokes emotions from people. People have an attachment to the original version. So anytime you alter that a little bit, I think, you know, people tend to get an opinion pretty quick on that. And that's totally fine. However, the timing of that makeover was really unfortunate. I mean, we obviously didn't know that in October of 2020, we were going to lose the legend of Eddie Van Halen. And I had done that makeover, that whole project in the video, probably about 6 months prior to that. And I think many people saw it after his passing and thought, why would you do that? And I completely understand how anyone could feel that way about me stripping this paint down, the original Frankenstrat stripes, and turning it into what basically amounted to just your everyday, ordinary kind of super strat, looked like any other Charvel out there. So I knew what needed to be done. I needed to bring the Frankenstrat back to really enjoy it for what it really is. I mean, after all, you know, this is a gorgeous K&E Azusa Frankenstrat body, and it just really needed to have that identity kind of restored. So I'm going to take you down to the workbench here in just a minute. This is not a long format video by any means. I'm just going to show you a few of the clips on how I transformed this back. There was a little bit of woodworking involved. Swapped out the pickup. I actually took out the EVH Frankenstein pickup, believe it or not, in favor for the EVH Wolfgang pickup. There's just sort of a high-end sizzle on that Wolfgang pickup that I really wanted to try to compare with this Northern Ash body. And so far, I'm really liking it. I hope you enjoy. Thanks again for stopping by. I appreciate your support and enjoy the rest of the video. So here it is in that previous configuration again with that Warmoth pickguard and the Mighty Mite neck. And if you remember from an older video, that neck actually was reshaped by Lee Garver at GMW. So it's a great neck, and I do plan on keeping that around for a future project. So you can see the position of that humbucker in the manner in which it was angled by default caused me to have to route these two areas of wood away, both into the top of the body and also on the floor of the pickup cavity in order for the frame of that pickup to actually sit down. So the wood that was there originally was just completely in the way. So here I'm taking some dowels and toothpicks and wood glue and filling some of the holes, the larger holes that were left from the previous pickguard installation, as well as using this big piece of angle block to hold some pressure down on a few little scraps of wood there on the floor that I'm going to eventually route flat for the new direct mounted pickup to be placed in. Now I've got the top sanded completely down, and at this point I decided I was going to leave the sides and the back alone. I was going to try to feather in the candy apple red paint and the clear coat and just do a respray only on the top. And this is what it looks like with that Duplicolor Metal Specs Retro Red completely sprayed over everything. And then in this shot here we've got this is the Cosmic Clear Show Clear by House of Color, all K's. So it's a mouthful here, but that is some excellent quality top coat there. And after buffing it through and sanding it through multiple layers of grit, all the way up to 3000 grit, and then polishing it with an automotive style high-speed polisher, it really shines up well. Now I've got an Ibanez single coil here, and what I decided was the old plastic wire that normally comes on these pickups. I know that's what was on the original, but I like the style of these kind of the wire cloth, the pushback cloth, because the center core wire is actually really stiff and it will hold a position when you bend it, kind of like a bread twisty tie. So I decided to pull the stock plastic coated wires off and solder in that other vintage style wiring, and as you can see there, when you twist it, it stays in that position. So it makes it a lot easier to shape for that wire tangle, which, by the way, I was not trying to be completely accurate in replicating the original, but just wanted something that resembled it. And that wire, that vintage wire, has a nice kind of a softer color too, instead of that stark white from the plastic coated stock wire. That pickup switch, that selector switch, was actually kind of fun to relic. It actually went through a series of chemical baths in muriatic acid, which I really don't recommend trying. It kind of starts the rusting process, but then what really kind of gave it that nice tarnished tint was a series of baths in a vinegar and steel wool stain solution. Whenever I'm inserting screws into a body like this, I always prefer to just use a regular screwdriver. I see people using a lot of power tools at this stage, and to me it just seems a little risky. You kind of lose some of that feeling when you're using a power tool, and it's hard to, you know, prevent from going down too far because, you know, maybe the tool was just too aggressive. So anytime I'm putting in a neck for the first time, or things like pick guards or whatever, it's always advisable to use, I like using a screwdriver. Again, just gives you that better sense of feeling for what the screw is actually doing. So that Musikraft neck, it made it up really well to the neck pocket there of the K&E body. I had no alignment issues whatsoever. And there on the bench is that little hockey puck size container of a product called Screw Wax. And I've used this in many other videos before. It's just a few dollars. It's basically like a beeswax that you can find at hardware stores. And you basically just dip the tip of the screw in there, and it helps to lubricate, especially on that first time that you're inserting it. Getting those Ernie Ball 9 to 42s. And at this point, I hadn't screwed down that Wolfgang pickup yet. I always like to string it up, leave the pickup loose, and then after all the strings have enough tension in them where you can check the alignment, then screw down that pickup into the correct position where your pole pieces are aligned with the strings. Getting that classic quarter installed onto the body, which at this point serves no purpose but is decorative and very easily identifiable as a Frankenstrat. Now, I know he used the 1971 quarter, and in order to make any Frankenstrat replica complete, you need to use a 1971 quarter. However, again, in keeping with the theme of this and keeping it personal, 1989 was a very significant year for me. It was the year I graduated high school, went into the Navy, and at the day of putting this quarter on, I actually was looking around in my change drawer for quarters, and I did not have a 71, but I did have an 89 in my pocket, so I took that as a good sign and went ahead and used that. So there's my bench buddy Shelby. Anytime she hears fretwork and strings being clipped or moved around, tuned up, she's always up there. So the Musikraft neck was pretty much playable out of the box. After demoing it for a few minutes in the first playthrough, I actually decided to go back and kind of give the frets just a real quick micro polish. I used like a 1000 grit sandpaper across the tops just to remove any lingering kind of grittiness from the millwork there, and then a quick little steel wool buffing. Now the Birchwood Casey gunstock wax, this to me is just absolute gold in a bottle, and if you've never rubbed this on to a raw neck, you really got to try it, because this is what really makes this thing feel just absolutely as smooth as possible. It's a very easy application, and of course, you know, this is used in the Ernie Ball Music Man series guitars, just for maintenance on the EVH Wolfgang necks. So the product has been used on the back of necks for many, many years, and once you apply it, it dries literally within a few minutes, and it just gives it a super slick, satiny feel. Your hand just glides right across. Once you wipe it on, you literally just take a rag and kind of, you know, dry rag, and just burnish it right off. And there you have that awesome Musikraft Franky neck ready to go with the Shaler tuners. The only thing left to do now is plug it in and rock. Let's see that Wolfgang pickup handles some of the modern stuff. Got the volume pot rolled back quite a bit. Alrighty guys, that's gonna wrap up this Frankenstrat makeover video. Man, overall, I'm just super thrilled with how well it turned out. I love the candy apple red paint. I love the Musikraft Franky neck. It feels fantastic. And I love that Wolfgang pickup. It's proving to be really, really versatile. Whether you roll the volume back or have it full tilt, this thing is a fire-breathing dragon, and I love it. So thank you all for watching, and I look forward to seeing you again real soon.